Hi, I'm Brian from Simply Brian Enterprises and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be addressing an issue that I've been having for a while, and to be honest, it's one of the reasons I haven't been able to get videos published lately, and that is the use of my workspace. Now, when you see one of my videos, you've probably seen something like that, which is my redabbler, as well as maybe some 3D printed components. These are for the Raspberry Pi class, for Top Tech Boys Raspberry Pi class. And the way this is sitting in this is just a screenshot, but you can get the idea. It's always sitting in the lower left corner of my desk. Well, the rest of my desk is actually kind of full. I've got multiple computers to do multiple different things. I do some graphics editing, obviously the video recording. This is what you're watching right now. And I do some IT contracting, so I have a separate computer for that. There's a whole bunch of things going on my desk. I use this desk for a lot of different purposes. And what that means is there's a lot of stuff on my desk. So when it comes to finding a place to put my Raspberry Pi class materials and filming them, this is basically it. I have this one little corner and I measured it out. It's about 11 inches by 13 inches. And that's all I have to spare on this desk. The rest is full of other things. So I started to think about the Raspberry Pi Pico class. Paul's class just started yesterday, and I was trying to think about how am I going to participate in that class when my desk is completely full. And I started to look at my Raspberry Pi setup and thought about, is there a way I can move it? I've been reluctant to move it actually ever since class started in, was it April? I think the Pi class started. This setup hasn't moved. The redabbler has been sitting on the desk pretty much in the spot that it is in this photo. Um, I've been putting components on and off the breadboard, sometimes going to external components like the servo and the potentiometer that you see here. And it's just kind of been sitting there, and I never really thought, what would it take to move it? So I started to think about it, and I realized that I don't like the idea of just picking everything up and moving it. Because you can see in this photo, I've got these external components connected. I've got a lot of wires going back and forth to the breadboard. I don't want to disturb those because the last thing I want to do is get a piece of code working, move it back, and now my code stopped working because one of the jumper wires got out of place on the breadboard and now the whole thing doesn't work. Very real possibility. So I started to think about how could I move it? And that's when I got the idea I could put something under it. And in fact, I've got some pieces of 1/4 inch plywood in my workshop. I could very easily cut one of those up to fit and slide it under there and then actually have a piece of plywood to move and everything just kind of sits on top, moves with it, the wires don't get disturbed and so forth. Well, the problem I ran into with that is it is unfortunately winter. And in the winter, I'm somewhat forced to move my woodshop materials, namely my table saw, out of the way so I can use other areas of the garage. And so the simple task of grabbing a piece of 1/4 inch and slicing it up on the table saw, not the easiest thing to do right now. I'm going to have to wait for some warmer weather. So I thought some more and grabbed a few pennies, headed down to the dollar store, and came up with this solution. So this is a piece of cardboard with some poster board glued onto it. And this is holding all of my Raspberry Pi materials. The redabbler, I actually have a piece of Velcro holding the redabbler to the cardboard. These pieces are free floating, but since I'm just going to pick it straight up and move it, it's okay if these move around a little bit because I'm not going to be bumping the wires. I'm not going to be unplugging anything. So then I had to think about this redabbler hasn't moved in almost a year. What do I need to do to move it? Is it connected to anything? And the good news is it is connected, but it's not too bad. I have my micro HDMI connector and I have my power connector. Now, if you remember, if you ever watched the initial redabbler videos that I made almost a year ago now, um, this is a Raspberry Pi branded 5-volt adapter that I soldered a standard barrel connector onto. And the reason was I wanted it modular. I wanted it to adapt to whatever I was going to do next, like another class. And then on the redabbler side, I have obviously the female barrel adapter, and it's wired in. Yeah, it's kind of a mess, but it's wired into the Pi 4, the Arduino, the ESP, and the breadboard. So I'm taking power to all four devices right off of here, coming right out of my Raspberry Pi branded 5-volt adapter. Now, I do want to say it again, I said it in my Dabbler videos, but the reason I'm using a Raspberry Pi branded power adapter is because it needs to deliver enough current for the Pi 4. I've found that generic adapters, the 5-volt stamped anywhere from 3 to 3.5 amps should work, but as soon as I use those generic adapters, my Pi 4 starts complaining about under voltage. And so that tells me that those inexpensive adapters aren't really putting out what's stamped on the adapter. If I use the Raspberry Pi branded one, I know it's going to work every time. This Dabbler, with everything I've got connected, I have not once gotten a low voltage warning. So I know that that adapter is putting out plenty of power for my projects. So with power and video disconnected, I can very easily now pick this up and just move it out of the way. And you can see as I move it out of the way, I now have all this room. So here's my 11, about 11 inches by 13 inches that I can cut another piece of cardboard, put things on. I'll probably do that for the Pi Pico class. Um, or if there's another class or project I want to work on, very simple to just make a piece of cardboard and fit it all on there. I hope this video was helpful. I feel like I rambled on a little bit, but I did want to make a point because this is something you're going to see in upcoming videos, and I wanted to explain it before you started asking questions about, hey, what's that colored cardboard for? So I appreciate you watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe below. I'm Brian from Simply Brian Enterprises, and thank you for watching.